to dig a little deeper, guys. We're going now into the flyout menus that are on your home screen. In a previous video, I mentioned that you have a flyout menu here on the right-hand side of your screen, and you have the same flyout menu over on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see those menus because there's a little white arrow pointing in towards the middle of the TV on both sides. Like I said, if I click that button, the menu that I get on the right-hand side of the screen is the same as the menu that I get on the left-hand side of the screen. So it doesn't matter if you're right-handed, left-handed, standing on the right side or the left side. This is the easiest way to access some of the most common tools on your IFP. So let's take a look, shall we, at what is on the flyout menu. I've mentioned in prior videos that the top button on the flyout menu is to change your sources. So if I have multiple inputs, if I have a laptop and I have a Chromebook and I have a visual presenter and I have a DVD player, and they're all hooked up to this IFP, this top button here, this source, will allow me to switch back and forth between those inputs with 2 clicks. I just click the source, and I click which input that I'm going to be choosing. Now, what does that mean? That means you need to know which input is which device. So I'm just going to need to know that my visual presenter is plugged into HDMI number 1. I'll need to know that my laptop is HDMI number 2. And if I end up switching to the wrong input, it's just going to give me a message that says that there is no signal. And I say, oh, well, that wasn't it. So then what I can quickly do is switch back to a different input, like HDMI 1, or I can say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to my home screen, back where I'm safe. Very easy to switch inputs right here with these different tools. You've got your VGA, your audio visual, your component. That was the red, blue, and green input that I told you about in the last video. I've got your HDMI 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all right there for me to access. This next button allows me to go back. So here I am, I've got this flyout menu, I've got my sources on the screen, which I just hit. The back button simply takes me back to the prior menu. So I can bring it out, I hit the back button, it takes me back, back, back. And if I have any apps open, I can hit that back button, it's going to take me back to the prior screen that I was on. Of course, we have the home button. That just brings me right back to my home screen. No matter where I am, if I hit the home button, it brings me back to my home screen. I'm going to skip down to the last one and then visit the one with the gear on it as my last flyout menu option. All the way at the bottom, we have a picture of the whiteboard. What that allows me to do is no matter what screen I'm on, it brings up at the bottom, it brings up a toolbar that doesn't give me very many options, but it makes it very easy to annotate anything that's on the screen. No matter where I am, whether I'm using the IFP or if I have my display coming from my laptop or my Chromebook, this screen is always available to me, and it'll always pop up with 2 colors, red or blue, an eraser, and a save button. And what that allows me to do is I can click on the red, and no matter what's on the screen, I'll be able to annotate right on top of it. If I have a visual learning bridge from my math program, or if I have a PDF with a graphic organizer for literacy, if I brought up a website, I can write on top of anything by bringing up that whiteboard icon. Again, I only have 2 choices, red or blue, but it does make it very easy. And if I choose the erase tool, I can just go ahead and erase it. If I hit the save tool, the little picture of the floppy disk, which is kind of interesting that technology this advanced uses a floppy disk as a save icon. But if I do hit that, it'll save the image with the annotation. It'll save it to the hard drive on the IFP, and we'll take a look at that in a second. So we've got the sources, we've got the back button, the home button, and then the little whiteboard picture with our annotation. Moving up to the second to bottom, we have a gear. The gear option brings out several different icons. I can change the sound. You got the picture of the speaker. Personally, I would just rather use the buttons at the bottom to change the sound, but if you want to use the sound icon there, you can bring up a little slider, and I can slide back and forth to make the sound go up or down. Look at that. The other options that I have on the gear is a camera. What the camera allows me to do is take a screenshot of anything that's on the screen. So let's say, for example, I brought up a whiteboard, and I'm going to create a new note, and let's do the wide ruled paper, and let's say that I'm saying, hello, world. and I'm like, oh, you know, I have 3 kids that are absent from class today. They really need to know what these notes were from this screen. What I can do is I can click on that gear and take a picture. It just took a picture of the screen, and what I'm able to do now is go back to my file manager, which we talked about in a prior video. If I go down to pictures and screenshots, there is a picture of the screen that I took the picture of that I can then provide to students who come back if they missed class. I can also save that image to a thumb drive if I wanted to take it and save it to my Google Drive or anything like that. So that's a very helpful tool. Again, that's the picture of the camera on the flyout menu. The gears, there's that picture of the camera. That's going to get you there. The next button is your folder button. That brings me back to, let's get out of here. That brings me back to that screen that I showed you with all the folders. Again, I'm going to show you that one again because I jumped a couple steps. If I click the folder button, it brings me back to that screen where it showed you with all the folders. If I hit home, that's how I get all of those pictures that I saved, those screenshots or the PDFs or whatever it is I took screenshots of. This is where I can access it. Again, that's from clicking the flyout menu, the gears, and then the picture of the file. The next button is your settings. That brings me to the screen where I can change all of my settings. I can change my network options. Folks, this is where you can change the date and time. So if you don't have your dongle plugged in, or if they didn't hook up your IFP to the Wi-Fi, if I go to the flyout menu and I click settings, it brings me to the screen where I can go over here to preferences. I click on date and time. Here it says automatic date and time. Right now it says on. If I turn that to off, it'll allow me to go ahead and change the date right there. So if your date and time is not correct, you can always go ahead and change it yourself by going into the settings and choosing date and time. You can change keyboard options, accessibility options. You can even add Bluetooth devices if you want. But basically that option there is to get you into all of the settings for the IFP. And then the final choice here, which many of you will be very interested in, is this picture of a snowflake. The snowflake is going to freeze your screen. So let's say I have my laptop or my Chromebook and it's hooked up to my IFP. And let's say I have a due now. So all the students came in, they just came in from recess, and I have 5 things I want them to do to kind of settle back in from recess. But while they're doing that, I need to get my stuff ready for the lesson. I need to bring up some flip charts, or I need to check an email real fast, but I don't want them to see it. What I can do is I can bring up the do now up on the screen. And I can click on the flyout menu, I click the gears, and I click the freeze button. And what the freeze button then allows me to do is freeze whatever's on the screen. I can go over now and work on my laptop and my Chromebook, and they won't know the difference. I will have frozen the image on the screen. When I'm ready to get back again, I go back, I click the gear, and I click the snowflake again, and it will now take the freeze off, and I'll be able to show anything I want on the screen. So those are the flyout menu options, a very handy tool. Those options are available no matter where you are in terms of the IFP, and you can access it from the left and the right hand side.